we did Adhyatma Bhakti, and then somebody made a comment which is a very appropriate comment, and he said it is celebrating the divine. This is the whole Vedic culture is, right? It really made me think about all our festivals. And I was really going through my mind about January, Uttarayanam. What is Uttarayanam? The sun moves to the northern hemisphere, right? So therefore, and we are aware of that, and that what? The whole thing starts, which is Uttarayanam. And there is a celebration there, right? How we are in touch with the whole universe. February, Shivaratri, right? March, Holi. Holi is, you know what story? Holika. Hiranya Kashyapa. Okay. April, Ram Navami.
Navratra.
And Navratra. May, Shankara Jayanti, Adi Shankaracharya Jayanti. Part of our culture, celebration.
That Vizak Purnima is also important.
That 14th April is a Tamil New Year, and Vaishakhi. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And Punjabi?
Vaishakhi.
What I want to show is everything is connected to what? Divinity. Each festival is connected to divinity. May, Adi Shankara Jayanti. June, I don't know, July, Guru Purnima. Guru Purnima is, you know what? Celebration of birthday of Vyasa, from where is Brahma Sutra, the author. No, the author of Brahma Sutra is Vyasa. And the person who, the Veda, which was an oral tradition, the one who actually made it into, what, 4 different Vedas is Vyasa, Veda Vyasa. We call him Veda Vyasa. And that what, is celebrated as Guru Purnima, his birthday. August, Janmashtami. Right? Then, after that, what? Ganesh Chaturthi. Then, Navratri. Then, Shraddha Paksha, where you are supposed to remember Pitrus, all the ancestors, and offer your prayers. Then Navratri, then Dashera, then Diwali. The whole year, one aspect, Rama stands for how to live your life with Dharma as the prime thing. Krishna, knowledge and joy. And then recently, 2 days ago, somebody reminded me it was Gita Jayanti. Gita Jayanti is the day on which what Lord Krishna gave Gita to Arjuna. The whole life is celebration of this divinity. Whole year goes with celebration. Festivals are not just cutting some animal. It is all looking at divinity. Not just some random celebration. That rejoicing in that divinity and celebration is the one which makes our mind what? Cheerful. That connection. There was a study, you know why? Because if you take out that connection with that divinity, and no matter how much you surround yourself with comfort or whatever, life seems like empty. There is a void. There is a very deep void. This is why I have one of Surya's cousins. She works in a pharmaceutical industry, and she told me the medicine which is sold the most in France is, which one?
Antidepressant.
Exactly, antidepressant.
And in America.
And in America. So you have created these beautiful societies with beautiful comforts, but if you've lost touch with not some vague divinity of somebody out there, but the divinity which is present in and through everything. That loss of connection leaves a deep void. It's so healing to somehow connect and celebrate. One of the other authors in modern, this new kind of psychology which is there in the US, he wrote to us. He wrote recently in one of the books. And he said that, why do we have all this depression and all, which is a very modern phenomenon. That is because we look upon the whole external world as inert. All dead objects. Sun is dead, just hydrogen. Water is dead, just oxygen. He says we have missed out the presence of intelligence, which makes everything what it is. If you pay attention to that intelligence, the whole Jagat is a wonder. Any given object that you see, the way it is placed, how it becomes what it is. A flower. He said, yeah, let's talk about flower, let's talk about rose. Rose, its beauty, its colors. How each flower has its own different fragrance. All this, there is an intelligence behind it. There are some similarities, but there are differences. Some flowers are orange, some are pink, some are red. Infinite variety within one species. If you begin to see the intelligence behind, life becomes a celebration. You don't need much. You just look at the sun, you look at the moon, you look at the waters, and you are what? You are connecting to divinity through them, and your life becomes what? Full. That of gratitude. The whole psyche has to undergo a change. From isolation to connection. From dissatisfaction to gratitude. From grabbing and consumption to sharing and contribution. And all three happen with what? With one basic connection in mind, and that is what? Your connection to the total. The transformation that Vedanta talks about is at another level altogether. There is Ishvara, which is part of that transformation. It's not just using some little techniques to just kind of undo a little bit. That also helps a lot. But this is another level altogether. And unfortunately, when I come to India, where there is so much celebration, people only think about what? Noise factor, pollution factor. Which may be true, but there is a whole totality which is missed out. One little thing is highlighted and everybody complains about it. These are what supposed to be the privileged intellectuals. Without really seeing the totality of the whole, what this whole vision stands for and its importance in lives of people. Only concentrate on one little inconvenience and then make a big noise about it. We are the trustee of this culture. This culture, which is an extraordinary culture, universal culture, because it doesn't exclude anything. It doesn't exclude any living being, it doesn't exclude non-living being, it doesn't exclude time, it doesn't exclude space. Everything is manifestation of only oneness. And then it is celebration of that oneness. And we are so critical. Okay? So therefore, anything which is entrusted upon you, if you don't value it, if you don't recognize what a treasure it is, what will happen? It will go. And is it whose loss it is? Only our loss? It is loss of humanity. Humanity loses a culture which is such an amazing culture. Where there are debates where truth is at the center and people talk about it. A culture where, as Namita was saying, there is no authorship to anything. Whether it's music or it is this amazing philosophy, everything is attributed to what? That final source from where all the intelligence comes. Okay. And unfortunately, the more removed we are from this beautiful thing, what happens? We ourselves feel a void in our life. So that's why there is a very good French author. His name is François Gautier. And he said, right now, he is really a thinker, he's a French thinker. And he says the whole universe, the whole world is at crossroads. Every theory, what? Economic theory, GDP growth rates and all, what? Falling apart. Even at the UN, they've given up all of that and new forms of development models are being talked about. Those are what? Sustainable development, which takes into account the environment. Human development indicators that UNDP came with. People are looking at new ways of even looking at what is development. Ecology. Even in management, so many so-called people ask us, can you give us, and he's doing that, management, incorporating what? Spirituality, because his profit earning is archaic. That being the only vision of a corporate has left so many people dissatisfied. So it started with what? Evolving. It's evolving. Started including what? CSR, corporate social responsibility. Then now it has evolved even further to what? Social enterprises. Every model that we held on to is what? You see the inadequacy of that model and we are moving forward. Okay? And in that moving forward, in that search, he says there is only one tradition which is all-encompassing, which includes entire humanity. It doesn't make a division, and that is this Vedic culture. Everything according to it is manifestation of divinity. Who will you include and who will you not include? And if we lose this culture is the only hope, according to him, for humanity to move forward to something which is meaningful. This vision, Vedic vision of oneness. If you let it be destroyed, it is loss of humanity. We are just trusting. Nobody owns any culture. Nobody owns anything. We are just trusting. If you have something precious and if you don't recognize it and you waste it away, it is like the Egyptians saying, let us just destroy these pyramids because what? They are just occupying space and they are just nothing but stone. If they did it, whose loss would it be? Entire humanity. Not just Egyptians. They are trusting.
So in any case, they are broken.
Yeah, exactly. At least half down. But whatever is the heritage that we and if it happens to be what? In your country, you are only a trustee. Nobody is the owner of anything. And if it is entrusted on you, what is your duty? Recognize its richness and what? Do your bit. If you don't want to spread it, doesn't matter, at least value it. Try to understand it. Okay? So this is where this whole thing, whole life, if you do that, life becomes celebration of divinity. And that is Avyabhicharini Bhakti. Okay? Now, the next value is Vivikta Desha Sevitvam Aratir Jana Samsadi. Okay? So one is the disposition of going to a quiet place and what? Not longing for company of people. So now, if you don't understand this, you may think that you have to be some kind of a recluse and you just have to go to Himalaya, away from people, away from company of people. It's certainly not that. Okay? So what is it? There are, a lot of, I felt that a lot of my real thinking about anything was done when what? I'm alone. Right? If you are studying and you have to think about something, you are what? Alone. Okay? Any researcher, how much time do they spend with books alone? Any painter, how much time do they spend with themselves alone? Any piece of art, even to learn music. Right? I began to read book of Namita, Music Room. And she writes very beautifully, where she says as a child, she had to what? She was at this Wellington club playing badminton with her friends, and that friend happens to be Shona. And she says from there she was pulled out and sent to one music teacher to study music. As a child, she just wanted to play. But what? That going away from that and dedication to music, what it has brought. the music that you listen to, hours. And her teacher used to say, whole lifetime is not enough for you to understand all the nuances of music. It will take lifetimes. So much to learn, so much to learn. And for that learning, any higher learning, how much time do you spend? You have to give it a time. It doesn't just come. Dancers, Bharatanatyam, all these classical forms of dancers, how long did they start? When did they start? When they were little kids. When do they do their Arangetram? When they are what, 14, 15. So that means how many years? Years. Dedication. That dedication means what? You are dedicated to this thing and therefore you are spending time with it. It is not just coming like that. Okay, so therefore, that if in order to do that for a while, you need to what? Withdraw yourself from people around you. Because if you are constantly with people, when do you have that time to go a little bit deeper into anything? Vedanta, what it talks about is first, people say that it is the first when they listen to Vedanta, it seemed like Star Wars. Like, what is this whole thing about limitless and I don't know what all terminology and Karana Sharira. It was all sounding some other space and time story at all, completely. But as you begin to listen to it and spend time thinking about it, you begin to see its profundity and its beauty. But it requires time. It requires certain reflection. That reflection can only be done when what? You are with yourself. I saw a very nice play at Prithvi Theatre. The name of the play was Einstein. I don't know what the name was. Einstein? Nasruddin Shah. Right? In that he plays the character of Einstein. And he was it was quite an amazing play because it's like he's talking to himself about his life. He's enacting and he's playing and he's just talking about his life. And he says that when I look into the star and I look into this whole universe and the mystery that is, and my urge to understand that mystery made me spend what? All my time looking into what all this physics and the equations. How many hours were spent? Hours and hours and hours absorbed in looking and trying to figure out the mystery of the universe. Then he had a regret. His regret was, he was so absorbed in that learning that his wife was dying in the next room and he didn't even go and spend last few moments with her because he was so absorbed. So that is another extreme where we are. But what I'm saying is anything that you excel requires what? Time and dedication. And that time and dedication by default means what? Staying away from certain amount of time, what? Staying away from people. Otherwise, people become what? Distraction. Right? If people become the end, Then what? Most of the time when people get together, what are they talking about?
The word politics.
There are 2-3 favorite topics. One is politics, the other one is real estate,
Money.
money,
Weather.
huh?
Weather.
Weather.
Maid servants.
That is so true.
Yes.
Hot topic.
Hot topic.
And tuitions, Ashuna.
And gossip.
And gossip. This is all where our mind is just going round and round and round and round in the same topics.
Now, you don't even need to be with people to be with people. You're on WhatsApp. I think everybody's chatting there and long conversations and debates and all
About
on the
nothing.
same topics, but on the thing. You don't even need to meet people. So
Yeah,
No,
so now
actually,
it is all virtual.
everybody's become so wise. Even
Yeah.
in Facebook and in any of the social sites, if you see, all they do is pick up a quote
Yeah.
and just post it. Everyone has become so wise. They won't understand the meaning of even 2 lines. And then there is this whole hype of posting quotes. All sorts of.
All sort of quotes, yeah. That is that giving an impression of being
Yeah.
wise. Right? That wisdom comes after years. And this is so true. What you are saying, Neera, is so true because when people think that, oh, I'm teaching this spirituality, they'll send me all kinds of quotes from all over the thing. And I said, what I've studied, what I've come to conclusion is that after years and years and years of reflection, I don't need these little quotes here and there to enrich myself. Right? That dedication, in that dedication is also pleasure. Ask any artist, when you're with music, you're a musician and you're with music, you're in different space altogether. Ask an artist, when he's painting, there's a total absorption. People keep asking me, they said, you're teaching Vedanta for days and for hours together, is it not tiring? I said, what tiring? When I'm connecting myself to that truth and I'm communicating to others, it rejuvenates me. There is no better pleasure than that. And when people come to me and if they tell me that their lives are changing, there is no bigger pleasure than that. There is no bigger reward than that. Okay? So therefore, that level, arati jana samsadi, does not mean you have to what? Stay away from people. Everything is what? Made into an advice. We are not asking you to stay away from people, but what? When you want to dedicate yourself to the truth, by default, what will happen? You'll spend time. When you spend time with it, then what? You can't be just wasting away your time talking about those topics endlessly with people. Right? Certain amount of time is needed. But it also you can say, yeah, now 2 hours in a day I want to go and meet my friends. There is no problem with that. Right? It's not like you whole day have to sit and study and think and reflect and there is a time, but that cannot become the end in itself. There is time for entertainment, there is time for fun, there is time for everything. But the goal of life cannot become that. That is what we call escapism. There are so many people who also tell me that, oh, we can't be with ourselves alone. Either at night or, even there are people who can't go for a walk alone. They always need company. Huh?
Or eat alone.
Eat alone. There is almost some kind of a deep void when you are in your own company. So you have to what? Start to love yourself. That you enjoy your own company. If people are there, wonderful. If people are not there, wonderful. I have really, it's incredible how much time I have spent alone. First for the studies, then my work and the travels, all alone. When Surya was studying, I was in Fiji Islands, which is like so far away, and I was totally alone. I didn't know a soul in Fiji. And Surya was attending the course, and I had the best time of my life. Don't tell him that. But it was lovely.
It was not because Surya was not there.
No, it's not because Surya was not there. It is just because I had time with myself, which was lovely. And the whole book which I wrote, Living the Vision of Oneness, was there. Okay, so that means that is celebrate yourself. When you begin to also celebrate your own self, then what? Need for people to be around you all the time will naturally drop. It's not that you have to stay away from people. That's not what is being said. When you love yourself, and not in a,
Narcissistic.
yeah, exactly. But when you begin to be comfortable with yourself, enjoy yourself, the needy part drops out. Okay, so therefore, here he says, Vivikta Desha Sevitvam Arate Jana Samsadi. Now, Arati Jana Samsadi also again does not mean that you have to avoid people. One very common thing that I hear, and that is, when people start coming to Vedanta and they start actually seeing things much more deeply, first thing they tell me is, when we go to all these parties, the parties seem so superficial. Because people are just talking about, as we had just mentioned, all these things. Right? So I tell them that, yeah, it may be true, but you can always use your buddhi to what? Turn the conversation to something more interesting. You need not always see, you don't need to call parties bad, and then otherwise you will be what? Just alone and lonely. If the present topics don't interest you, as Rajan was saying, be the leader. Don't just follow the flow and talk about gossip. You can change the topic to something interesting. There are so many interesting things to talk about. Okay. So therefore, when I was studying this, people say, oh, because at the UN we have to attend many official functions where there are lots of people and all. So don't you get bored now because now you are into Shastra? I said, I'll never get bored. Because I find human mind fascinating. How they think. The values people carry. The whole variety. Every interaction for me is a new something, opportunity given to have an insight into human mind. I don't have, really, I'm telling you, I don't have judgments. I don't categorize people and say, oh, this one in 5 minutes I figured out whether this person is good or not, or, I don't give names to people. I don't assume this guru and I'm higher, not at all. I'm just curious. Curious about human mind. And as much as possible, I don't try to fall down to gossips. As much as possible. Keep it within this little mundane chakkar, which is such a waste of time. You engage with a person with a different kind of a thing and you start asking questions and you will see how much you can learn from people. All these stories that I tell you during my class, they are all gathered from what? My observation about lives of people. Everybody has been a teacher. Even now, I'm constantly learning. Your inputs, your opinions, your way of looking at things. It all enriches me and helps me in my communication. So that very interaction, which is a mundane interaction, you can turn it into what? An opportunity to learn. That much power you have. You don't need to stay away from things, but you can change the environment by your presence. Everywhere you go, you bring in yourself. And by bringing that self, if it is an evolved self, everybody is lifted. Okay? So therefore, that people, parties, nothing is a problem. It's you. And what you do with it. Okay? So therefore, that is something that one has to elevate oneself. If one elevates oneself, one becomes an instrument for everybody else to be elevated to a certain point. You bring that freshness. Right? Now, the next value is Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva. As I told you in the morning, that constantly keeping in touch with what? Adhyatma Jnanam. What is Adhyatma Jnanam? Jnanam is knowledge and Adhyatma is what? Adhyatma is what? The knowledge which is centered around I. Okay? Because if you go to this life, what the patterns of behavior and your understanding before you came to Vedanta rules the mind. After Vedanta comes, what percentage of your time you spend listening to Vedanta? Let's say 1 hour in a week. How many hours are there? How many 24 hours multiplied by 7?
154.
154 hours. 148. 148 hours. Out of this 148 hours, you have now invested 1 hour in Vedanta. And what? The rest of the time has impression of everything which is past, learned in the past. So what is the strength of 1 hour of time as opposed to all the 40 years that you've learned you've lived without Vedanta and what the thought processes that you've acquired, and then also what? Out of this 148 hours, 1 hour you have spent. Now, if you take the Vedic model, this is not only the pattern of this lifetime to take yourself as an individual and load it with all other kinds of complex. It is anadi problem, means lifetimes. Lifetimes have been spent you thinking about yourself as what? This little individual. And you carry forward what you carry forward is what we call samskara. Why? Each one comes with a different mind. Why? Your mind is different from my mind, and my mind is different from your mind, and your mind is different from Yuta. Everybody comes with a mind which is a unique mind, with its own what? Talents, its own skills, own disposition, and own certain drawbacks. Okay? All that is just random? No. We saw that there are laws of cause and effect. So that means what is not finished here is what? Carried forward. You don't take back what? You don't take back the body, you don't take back the mind, but you take back what? Certain dispositions, which is what we call samskara. You are born with some inclinations. Right? And you're also born with some kind of orientations. And that gets what? Reinforced as you begin to live in this life. So now, the force of anadi janma and samskaras and the way you have lived your life as an individual, and this life itself, the strength of all that against 1 hour of Vedanta.
Neema, please correct me if I am here, but it is said that if we do believe in life after death, the causal and subtle, they get carried forward. Is it by any chance close to...
That's a good question. What we say is, the causal is one, right? It gets carried forward. The subtle changes. Some people say the subtle changes, some people say the subtle is reprogrammed. Reprogrammed in the next birth. As per the karma. As per the karma, it gets
Karmas are all there in causal.
In causal.
So the causal reprograms the subtle. To some extent.
Yeah. So that means there is a whole method which is mentioned. There are 3 kinds of karmas. Sanchita karma, prarabdha karma, and agami karma. Right? I will maybe talk about it in satsang. And then how the mechanism through which it gets transferred. I will talk in satsang. Okay. But now, imagine the strength of all that which is an orientation as opposed to 1 or 2 hours, or let's say you have studied for what? 10 years Vedanta. Still, how much is it? Nothing. Right? So therefore, they say that it is pursuit which actually, again, it takes lifetime. But that lifetime of pursuit, Adhyatma Vidya means once you come to Adhyatma Jnana, as I told you, the whole journey becomes beautiful because you give up confusion, you give up smallness, you give up all that, and that itself becomes pleasurable. But Arjuna had asked a question to Lord Krishna while he was listening to Gita. while he was listening to the whole thing, very fascinated, he said, what if I leave this world without totally understanding what you are telling me? What will happen to me? Lord Krishna says, once you start this knowledge, then the whole thing is you will be taken care of. In the next birth, you will get an opportunity to connect to this knowledge. There is no way it can be lost. No way. He says, he describes 2-3 different types of birth that you will get, and then you will get connected to this knowledge again. The first is Srimatam Grehe. Srimatam means who is relatively wealthy and educated. So that means what? You don't have to struggle for, you're meeting some basic necessities of your life. When you don't have to struggle, then what? The pursuit of Vedanta or any higher learning becomes relatively easier. There is no guarantee, but it will. The second way is you born in a family which is what? The family of intellectuals. People who are thinkers, cultured thinkers. You may not be very wealthy, but from the beginning, there is value for learning. There is value for what? Living a healthy life, ethical living. All that is a huge what? Bonus. It's an advantage.
Head start.
Head start. Right? And then the third thing is what? You're born in a family where this knowledge is present. Imagine your parents themselves are studying this. Many of you are now the parents who are studying this, and your kids are born in this family, in your families. You have legacy to give. Okay? These are all privileged births. So therefore, all these are all punyas. What? Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva. Until any lifetime you start, and it may take lifetimes before you finally get it totally. But you only what? Move towards that. You don't go back. This is a promise that Lord Krishna has given. Now, my teacher was extremely careful, because sometimes some people who came to him, who were like either intellectually so impaired, in the sense that the basic logic, if you don't have, you don't get. Vedanta requires you to be a thinker, or emotionally highly disturbed, or people who you would immediately, first sight, you will feel what? Oh my God, this person will never get Vedanta, so why are you wasting your time on this person? My teacher said, after anadi janmas, countless births, if this person is connected to me by the order, There is something, I can't just reject that person. Because if I reject, there is what? If I reject this person, then this person is what? Can just go back to cycles and cycles and cycles of rebirth. But if I can help that person, even to start, even in this lifetime the person is hopeless, I'm sowing the seeds. Those seeds, in this lifetime it may seem what? It was waste of his time. But it will carry forward in the next life, where what? That the very fact that the person sat in the class and understood even 2%, the person will be connected and will be given what? Better births, where there is more opportunity to connect to this knowledge. He says, I'm not going and asking people to come to me, but if they have come to me, what right do I have to reject them? Somewhere, something they may have done, some punya they have, which brings them what? From the whole world, brings them here to me. And if I am a trustee of this treasure, how can I deny this treasure to anybody using my free will? Very evolved. Because generally, what is our buddhi? Intellect, assessing, seeing, this person deserves it, give it, this person, no, forget it. This is how we operate. How far-reaching this thought is. Anytime anybody starts with what? Atma Jnana. And if you have been entrusted with this knowledge, what right do you have to refuse anyone? If the person is not ready, what will happen? The person will drop. Because the whole teaching will not resonate. There is a natural selection. But using your free will, you don't deny anyone. Okay? Adhyatma Vidya. And the more you begin to see its value in your life, more it occupies what? An important position in your life. Our teacher used to give an example. After that example, I will stop because I have one more class and I have only one more value left. So, our teacher used to say, he used to give this example, that you are all going to take a flight tomorrow. No, day after. Day after, right? So when you reach the airport, right, which is what, 1.5 hours before the flight, let's say if you are not in Dehradun but in Delhi, and you reach. So you have this departure board, and where would your flight appear? Down below, right? Because there are so many flights which are before you. So then it figures, initially it may not come at all because there are too many other flights. Slowly it will come where? Down below. As you check in, as you do your security, whatever, as you go through that little, they scan your baggage and whatever, where is your, in that upper, it starts moving up. Because many of those things have taken off. Then you reach your boarding gate, by then, where is your flight? Right on top. Same thing about Vedanta in your life. You're so busy doing so many activities, Vedanta figures nowhere. Then somebody somewhere tells you, hey, go listen to Vedanta. Where is it in your life? Among all these activities, somewhere down below. When I have got nothing else to do, when I have no parties, when I have no teas, when I have no nothing, then I go and listen to Vedanta. Then, as you go to the class, and if you are prepared and if it starts resonating with you, then what? it slowly moves up. It moves up now, let's say, middle. And then you begin to see the beauty more and more and more. At one time, it will become a priority. You'll make time for it. Everything else, as Preeti was saying, trivial, actually, compared to this knowledge. But that is not our understanding initially. What seems like other activities seem so much more important to us. And this is what? Something side. But as you begin to see it's important, it becomes the priority. Because if you have figured out mix-up, everything, the whole life becomes what? Celebration. But if you haven't figured out mix-up, what happens? You are loaded with all kinds of opinions about yourself, about the world, all kinds of emotions which are haywire, all kinds of memories that you are carrying within yourself that consumes you totally. So therefore, that whole, my teacher used to say, imagine somebody is down there and if I reject them, am I giving them the natural opportunity to move up? No. I have to give generously and give each one their own space and own time to grow. And if they are not ready, what? They themselves will drop. Because this knowledge is too powerful. If you are not ready, it will drop. It will drop because if you don't see its importance, what will happen? It will not move up.
The flight will get cancelled.
The flight will get cancelled. So the flight will get cancelled. With this, I stop. So Adhyatma Vidya means that the more you understand its value, the more you make time to listen to it more and more. Because it is the thing which needs to be solved in life actually. Once this is solved, everything else is too easy to solve. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti